welcome to the next edition of the Value Exchange podcast. I am joined by my usual co-host, Rob Pye. Please say hello, Rob Pye.
Hello, Rob Pye. Again.
Thank you. And delighted today to be joined by Jess Flack, who was first introduced to us, I don't know, probably 12 months ago. Maybe by Jake Richings. Call out to Jake. Hi, Jake. Jess is based in Essex. She is primarily a mother, I would say. Being a mother, let's go mothers first. But tackling digital exclusion in Essex is where she finds herself now. But I'm going to ask her to tell us a little bit about her journey and what has brought her to where she is now. So, Jess, welcome, and over to you.
Well, thank you very much for having me. So where do we start? So my husband would say I am a job hopper. That sounds really bad because I'm of the age where we didn't really change jobs much, but things have changed now and we are changing jobs. There's lots of fixed term contracts out there and opportunities for sideways promotion. So I'm in a bit of an oddball when it comes to our friends locally, our friend circle, which is what he sees. And he's been in his job since he was like 16. So he's an architectural visualizer. But I have moved from job to job. So I started out, where was I? I did the usual things, school, college, went and to university at Oxford Brookes for a little bit of time, where I was studying German, Japanese and business studies, and found out that I was the only person in the whole block of flats that we were living in with other students working harder than an architect. So the architects are there for like 7 years studying. And I found that the Japanese ab initio level was like crazy tough. So I had to make a change and was really lucky in getting a job at Liverpool John Moores University with a lady called Rosemary Kappa, who is still one of my all-time favourite bosses. And I worked in work-based learning, so I supported students into sandwich placements. So there's that employability thread there. And also equally lucky to receive the opportunity to work and study at the same time. So I was studying business studies and then left university with no debt, which is like almost unheard of.
Congratulations.
Yeah, I know. That big thing. It was quite interesting because at some periods in my my experience during John Moores, I was in some of the same classes as the students that would come into me and ask for help about jobs and CVs and things. And one of them said to me, "Are you a spy?" I said, "No, I don't think so, but I wouldn't be able to tell you that anyway, would I?" And then they sort of said, "How old are you?" And I said, "Well, how old do you think I am?" And they came up with 40. Now, given that this was like over 20 years ago.
How rude.
I know. So, honestly, it's an absolutely brilliant experience. And it's the place that I learned to be somebody that could just walk into a room and just deliver presentations to lots of people and really understand what recruiters wanted and all of that sort of thing. So I developed some IT skills and all that kind of stuff. And then I went on holiday and I met my husband in Gran Canaria in the Hippodrome. I don't even know if it's still open, but what a story that is. One for the kids. We basically, I moved to Essexshire and started my first job in Essex at EST Connections. Again, with that employability thing, I was a personal advisor. And then I moved on to work in the city. So I worked as a graduate recruiter at KPMG, then at Hobson's, which I think was taken over by, not Gradcore, say Gradcore, but I don't think it was. So it was Hobson's, where they were sort of publishing, they did Milk Round, all that kind of stuff, where I was a project manager and went and did some sort of recruitment work out in China, in Beijing. That was cool. And I remember being at a big event, because this is I think it was the graduate work experience program for Chinese and UK sort of swaps. And we were around this table, and I've never used chopsticks in my life. Never was using these chopsticks, and I was just like, oh my god, what do I do? What do I do? I don't want to look stupid, because it was with, like, quite senior people from the government there. They thought it was hilarious, and then they taught me how to use them and presented me with a handwritten certificate that I could now use chopsticks, which was great. So really good experience. And then on from there, where are we? I say also, is that when I think I started at City University? I was there for like 10, 11 years. So that's not job hopping. And again, that was in, so I was a tutor for professional development in IT, preparing the sort of tech students for work, basically sort of teaching them, what to expect and how to do things, and also work-based learning advisor. And then what did I do? I'm trying to think, where did I go? Oh, so then I was at BPP, so I was the head of professional development there for a while, so education, employment, all of those types of things. And then I started with Essex County Council. I don't think I've missed anything off. I could be wrong. It's a bit of a blur at the moment. So I started out with Essex on a fixed term contract, working with skills. So you can probably see the golden thread there is employability skills, um, supporting people, helping people, wanting to make a difference, all of that kind of stuff. And then onto this role, which is digital inclusion lead for Essex County Council. Still with that kind of tech theme, which I've also kept from City all the way through, really healthy respect for tech. Um, and if you want to try and have a go at breaking it, I think you should, because it's quite flexible. So give it a go. And this is part of the whole kind of concept around digital exclusion. It can be quite scary for some people if they've never touched it before and you don't know what's going to happen. The worry is that you will break it. So just for people out there who might be listening, you can't really break it. The blue screen of death can happen, but just turn it off and on again. That's the general gist.
But so first question, I can't resist, because it's a brilliant journey that it's not quite Cadbury's Bourneville, Jess, is it? Where you kind of go, you get a house and you work for 35 years and then you
No.
retire and then die, it feels like you've had a 21st century gigging life
Yeah,
that
absolutely.
now our youngsters are being born into. They don't have a choice in many ways of doing that, but actually that was kind of a choice thing, and yeah, it's been so exciting, that journey. And I've observed in the short time that we've known each other that there's a journey going on now, and before we get to the current job, that involves social media and digital. And I'm quite interested in how, because when I'm 57, when I started my tech career, I had a degree in computer science. By the way, I'm married to Sarah, who is from Essex, and she went to Oxford Brookes University to
Oh
do
yeah, we
business
are
studies.
related practically.
And we are related. Her name was Sarah Kirkpatrick from Gallywood, so
Oh
that's her
wow.
maiden name. So it's like, this is something. It'll be joint friends or something that we know. Um, I've lost my thread. I'm just interested in your social media story. How have you would you describe that experiment, that sort of the digital age? I did. There was no phones when I came into tech. There was no internet, but now we're having to adapt to all this sort of social media. How's
Absolutely.
that been?
Um, well, I love this little thing that I was thinking about the other day. You know how we've got Love Island, and they go, "I've got a text," and they're thinking about doing an older Love Island. It would be, "I've got a fax." They faxed me this thing, and we've got to meet there. I just love them to do that. So you can imagine it, can't you? Making that funny noise. Um, so yeah, I sort of started the experiment. I was quite afraid of the whole LinkedIn thing. But I was really lucky at City University of London to go along to this fabulous presentation with a guy I'm still connected with now. I think Charles Hardy was there as well. Um, Really brilliant. They were talking about how LinkedIn could support with building your alumni, which is also really, really important for universities because it brings in a lot of money for funding, etc. But tracking, managing, engaging, all of that sort of stuff. And it was just starting out. And it was great for me to go along because I could trial it and talk to people about it. And that's when it started off as a kind of like a CRM, because I remember I could meet someone, have a conversation with them, and then I could go onto their profile. And just for me, there was a bit where I could say, oh, so I met Daniel today, and Daniel is a partner at this company and plays golf on a weekend with Dave, and his dog is called, I don't know, Candy or whatever. So that you had that opportunity to go the next time I speak, oh, how's Dave? What's your part recently, and that kind of thing. So it was a great sort of way to manage those relationships. It was early CRM. Obviously it's changed now and it's in the way it does things, but that was really cool. And I did have a go at Twitter for a little while. Yeah, the things that I was seeing on Twitter I didn't particularly like, and I felt like it was a more irate version. There's lots of anger and angst and immediate responses to things that when you go and work in a job, you're told never to respond straight away, sleep on it. But Twitter is the antithesis of
Yeah.
that, and you just go like that, and they're your words. They're out there forever for everyone to see, and there's a trail that comes back to you. And a lot of that is what I started teaching at university as well. Be really careful, because as social media grew and developed, you got the recruiters who were basically looking at all of your social media past, whether you love watching cat videos or whether you're posting yourself, at an event and then not turning up to work the next day because you've got a hangover. Those types of things are there forever. LinkedIn is different, and it's changed. It's pivoted quite a lot. So it did used to be much more, really heavy, professional. Everyone was suited. No one smiled. Um, and just that kind of CRM thing. But it has changed. I'm glad to see some people still don't like this whole thing of you should share your personal with the professional and build your brand. But you will notice from LinkedIn that the things that gain most traction are those elements that enable people to resonate with you as a human being. And
Funny that, yeah.
I think it's one of the gifts that we've had from the pandemic. There's lots of negative things, but one of the gifts that we've really received from this is that we can now identify with people as human beings in a way we would never have before. The man that turned himself into a potato, or couldn't get the cat face off. The guy who was on a live stream with BBC News, and his kids just la 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 in the background, and the nanny's dragging them out. That's human. That's who we are. And it resonates with people on a level that makes you want to have that conversation. And then if you look at Simon Sinek's Why, that's what it's all built on, is that concept of, we buy from the person, the thing that the person that we believe in, not necessarily that brand. So get those two things right, and it's incredible. So yeah, my journey started out as sort of, seeing what I could do with it. But it's kind of escalated to the point now where it's a tool that I don't think I could do my job without, because working in a county council, we want to make sure that we spend the money that we have very carefully. So if I don't have to spend money, I won't. And I kind of come from this whole ethos of, ask the question, ask somebody if they will help you. If they say no, fair enough, but that's how you build your resilience, isn't it? So yeah, I use LinkedIn as a way to connect with a really wide audience, a community of people, to share what I'm doing. So I don't believe that the things that we do really well should be kept to ourselves, because it could do so much, better good out in the world with other people knowing it. To sympathize with people who are having a tough time, and just be that place where you have that opportunity, that stage, to be personal and professional at the same time. And if you can get it right, and there are some brilliant people. There's equally other people who, it grates on me a bit. Yes, you've done amazingly well, and you've made your millions, and follow these 3 steps on my carousel and get this. The thing for me that resonates most, and I use that word resonate a lot because it's so important, is journey. The journey is the bit that you learn most from. So we've got to be super careful with what we do with social media, especially for our young people, because if they only ever see the outcome, they will compare themselves to that and they will never be good enough. But if they see the journey, they'll see the failures and the ups and the downs. They'll know that the career doesn't need to be linear, it can be squiggly. Um, and that's the point, I think, that we should be really being respectful around that, on the social media choices that we make.
And that's such beautiful advice. I want to bottle that, and we have bottled it because it's advice, and it's based on experience, your journey, and it's not just for the young people who are coming into. It's also for the old people or anybody in between that are journeying into this new space. So reflecting, Jake had this little conversation. He said, I grew up in this world of instant, instant, instant. And then I
Yeah.
went to organizations that were, well, let's consider that and we will come back to you in
Mhm.
6 months when we've had a think about it. You know for yourself, the
Mm.
gestation period in councils is not instant it's
No,
a considered
that's the
approach.
word,
So
considered.
you've got these different perspectives that all somehow have to come together. How much do I reflect, how much do I instantly like, how much. I think as I say, I want to bottle it because I think there's so many points that you made in there that are not just for young people, but it's young people looking at going into the old world of work, or people who have been in a well-established system for what seems like 100 years. I'm going to ask Annabelle for the next one now. Then.
Well, I mean, I'm glad. I mean, you just answered my question anyway in what you just said, because I was really interested in, because I have seen the same movement with LinkedIn that you just described. I feel there's a lot more authentic coming out in LinkedIn now, and I see people are riling against it a bit, a bit of it, but
This isn't
actually,
Facebook.
well, I know, which is really interesting, isn't it? Because it's just so, well, no, it's not, but I'm a real person, as you say, So you sum that up very nicely for me.
Thank you.
Um, so, I mean, how did you? So, you've talked about the thread that's running through this skills employment. Was there a moment in time where you thought, this is me, this is what I am about, this is what I'm doing, or has this been, as you describe, a journey of self-discovery? And when are the moments of reflection been for you?
So I never thought about it like that. I feel like I just fell into things, but you can't really fall into things if your skills, sort of give you those opportunities. It's a bit
Mm,
chicken and egg, I suppose, isn't it? I probably wouldn't have gone for a job had I not have done the job previously to that,
mm,
if you know what I mean.
mhm,
Um, Having worked in education, I don't know if I can say this, but to some extent, I fell out of love with learning in the way that you learn, you write about it, you get reviewed about your learning, and that's the accolade done. Um, I became more interested in the vocational side of learning, because if that's done great, then it can be incredible. Because
Yeah, we call that action research, where we say, what we do is you just do something and then reflect on what you've
yeah,
learned, and then do something else and do something else, and
it's that
set it up
learning
as a
by
continual
doing.
experiment. Learn by doing,
Absolutely.
yeah.
So it was the change that I saw in my students at City, from kind of coming in, with a sort of, I'm the bee's knees, I'm, this, that, and the other. Not everybody, but you have a lot of students who would do that, and they'd come in and they would go on to a placement, and that attitude changed, and it was the experience that they had, and that they weren't necessarily the best in class or whatever, they still had, really valuable things to give to the other people around them. And some of them who might have been struggling previously with some of their academics really pushed them up that ladder, and because they were able to challenge the things that they were learning. And I think that's the point, is when somebody tells you something, we mustn't forget that we need to challenge that. So, in everything we do. So obviously we've got the fake news and we've got all of this stuff, but always take it as a surface level and think about that iceberg of what's underneath that. Why are people telling me that? What's in it for them? They really changed in that attitude. It was incredible to see that change. And I knew that the world of work held so much in that capability for them, that I really started to think, well, do we need full degrees, for every subject? Not necessarily. And, I might be chastised for some of my views on that, but I think that, I think maybe things might start to change now. We're having more degree apprenticeships that really have that balance of those two worlds. And for me, it's that work experience piece of physically being out there, doing the thing, challenging the thing that you've just learned. And is there a better way? Is there a quicker way? Well, of course there is, because business adapts quicker than your education ever would. So, yeah, I mean, again, I might be outspoken, but these are just my views and views of nobody else. You know, I did kind of fall out of love with that kind of learning, and kind of didn't want to then be stuck, because I guess I'd done it. I'd done my study at university whilst working at the same time, and it's tough. It's really tough. Managing everything, managing your social life, managing your study, and managing your work. And I kind of didn't want to do it again. So I sort of rallied against it until I did. I got a sort of the what is it, the FHEA, so Fellowship of the Higher Education Academy. But I did that the vocational route. So I wrote some pieces. I got some evidence together. I got people to kind of sponsor that evidence, rather than me studying and telling people I could do it. I already knew, because I had all this evidence to back it up. So that was fine. But yeah, so hopefully in a roundabout way I've answered that. But yeah, I really do see the value of learning through experience and having that opportunity in what you do.
So now I think we should get on to the current mission, the current role, and what you're doing. So would it be possible to just outline the current mission, what your job is, what you're
Current
trying to do
mission.
with STEM in Essex, and we started the story before the interview. It'd be good to just unpick that a bit for listeners.
Yeah, so I'm at the moment I'm digital inclusion lead for Essex County Council. So that kind of really focuses on making sure that people have three things. So it's quite easy to remember the three A's. So access to, affordability of, and the adoption of skills. So around technology. So having the right connectivity, whether it's broadband connectivity or mobile connectivity, being able to afford devices, whether it's a smartphone or a laptop or a tablet, and also being able to do the things that you need to do by having the skills around that as well. So I focus on those three areas. And what I've found since I've been in post for the sort of last year or so is, I like to call it a huge, great, big, beautiful patchwork quilt with lots of things happening here, there, and everywhere. And it's my job to connect these things up by doing some really great sewing that shall never be torn asunder. um, so that's kind of one of the things that I do, and I'm using tools that I have in my toolbox, like social value, to help enable those things. Linking it to social media. Like I said, I can't do my job without LinkedIn, and being able to kind of say, right, I need to speak to somebody at this company, have a little type, have a little search, find that person, and sometimes people don't connect, so then I find
Yeah.
somebody else.
So in terms of that first, just again stripping it back for people who've kind of the buzzwords won't mean a lot in terms of exclusion or
Mhm.
digital. What the first one you mentioned, I think it was access to.
Yeah.
Um, what is the problem there? I mean, is it people don't have PCs, they don't have phones, they don't have an internet connection, they don't have what is the access? What are the three? What are the
It's all of
problems
those
behind
things.
the three A's? That,
It can be it can be a combination of all these things. The reasons why people might not be online. So a fifth of our households in the UK are still not online.
and
And
that's what, no internet connection rather than a phone with an internet. I mean,
yeah,
is
so
that
not online at
is that
all.
both or
So
either
in
or?
both of those things, either mobile or broadband connectivity. There's a huge rollout of connectivity happening all across the UK at the moment. You know, we are trying to focus more on rural areas, etc., and so on. So that's a big piece of work that's happening through our digital Essex team as well, through connectivity, and they're fabulous. And then we have mobile connectivity. We have a fabulous support through the Good Things Foundation, which offer the National Data Bank. So that's free SIM cards for people who are on universal credit or low incomes, have difficulty in connecting, that sort of thing. And there are various places where you can go for these. We have a rollout across Essex at the moment with some of our libraries. And all that I can mention is patchwork quilt. Lots of community volunteering services are offering this as well. But if you don't know it's there, you won't know how to go and get it, sort of thing. Um, and then the sort of affordability side of things in terms of devices.
Well,
So
we all know about the cost of living crisis. It's like that's
absolutely,
everywhere, isn't it? Yeah.
absolutely. So we're working with organisations to have end of life tech donated. What a term that is. It just basically means that where your devices are kind of coming to the end of the life that they would
Yeah.
have at your organisation, you can wipe them and donate them. Then we can either refurb them or get them out to people that need them. A lot of the work that we did sort of obviously was in response to the COVID pandemic to make sure that children could still access and learn online. I remember at home, we were sort of scrabbling around going, oh, what do we do? And, putting this in here and trying that in there. And then, of course, you
Hmm.
realize, oh, the internet speeds can't cope with that. So there is social tariffs as well. I don't know if you've heard of those. So they enable people to who are on universal or pension credits or PIP, which is a personal independence payments, I think, that can sort of be able to access cheaper broadband packages to support around the cost of living, etc., and so on. And I think we've still got a sort of national 3% uptake. It's getting a bit better. A lot of it is around awareness. So we're doing lots in terms of the campaigns that we're putting out at the moment. Like I said, the Digital Essex team are fabulous. They've won an award fairly recently for the campaigns that they've done. And then, like I said, we like to share. So they got a spot working with the local government association to talk to all the other local government authorities, just to kind of tell them what we were doing, and if they wanted to contact us to let us know, and we could share some of the assets about around what we're doing. So I think that's the
It's,
thing.
it's hard. It's hard to sort of conceive, isn't it? In this day and age in the UK, I can imagine sub-Saharan Africa people not having, living in rural communities, not having an internet connection or phones, but not in Essex. It's like
No.
20%.
Yeah.
It's quite difficult to get your mind around the
I
problem,
think it's because
isn't
you
it?
can't necessarily see it.
No.
If you can't see it, you can't,
Mm.
grasp it, can you? So
No, I mean, I experienced stories, particularly in the pandemic, in education. There was a massive, we had a former ethos partner, and he was just went around his local area collecting laptops in the way you've just described and
mm,
redistributed them
yeah,
to, children so that they could
absolutely.
carry on with their education. And a relative of mine who teaches in Yorkshire, in Bradford, in a quite a deprived area of Bradford, it's just that they don't have anything. They don't
Yeah,
have access to anything. There are no devices. It's an impossibility, and they certainly can't afford it. So what do you do? And
yeah,
you have these large organisations on the edge, and you're like, really, you should just be giving everybody a laptop. They're really not that expensive in the scheme of things. Just do it.
I do remember that one of our young leaders who was, totally enthusiastic. He was trying to do everything on his phone like this,
Yeah,
and
it's
it was
too
like,
it's
for heaven's
difficult.
sake, we didn't have the budget. Let's just buy this person a laptop, because if we didn't if he didn't have a laptop, he
Mm.
couldn't really function in the world of ethos. So it's just buy him a laptop. But from a process point, that would have been quite complex to ensure that we remove those barriers as a matter of process more than let's just do it as a. But I just wanted to pause there because I think some people, wouldn't really acknowledge a problem in access and
Mm.
exclusion, digital exclusion. That that is something that needs a lot of work to kind of even get people onto the
It's
first
huge.
rung of the ladder. You know.
It's huge. It's, you know, that there's other sort of really connected things, that there's poverty, there's loneliness, there's, you know, if we want people to remain in their own homes for as long as possible, then we need to make sure that people have the skills to be able to utilize care tech. You know, all of these things, and the scope of my work just gets bigger and bigger, and it's so interesting. And one of the things I love to be able to do is connect up lots of things. So there are lots of things, great things happening, but they kind of operate in isolation, and they just need someone to say, oh, maybe you should talk to this person because they're doing that and they need this. And then, you know, you suddenly have a much greater impact. So that's one of the things that I do quite a lot of. And
And
really,
you tell, again, sorry for the interruption, but you mentioned the metaphor of sewing and your digital patchwork, and that
yeah,
we've seen in other communities across up and down the country that sometimes the intent is brilliant. Let's work. Surely we'll work together.
mm.
Surely we'll. Have you seen what are the barriers you've seen to? Surely we should just work together and make this happen more beautifully. Have you seen problems in that area?
I think so. We were at this fabulous event yesterday, and we were talking about some of these things. And I think there's a lot of different things that kind of happen. So um, there's obviously, you know, there can be communication barriers. So unless you're in a room, or, you know, a lot of the people that I work with might not be on LinkedIn and don't use it in that way, or those types of things. So communication can be a massive barrier. But if you are all vying for the same funding pot, then you will naturally be very protective over that. So that can cause issues as well. So this is my money. I've worked really hard to get this money. This is my money. Um, and one of the
We've seen
amazing
so
things,
much of that
yeah,
because
it's
it
hard.
unfortunately they say money is the root of all evil, especially with the
It is.
VCSE sector, the voluntary and charitable sector, where they've actually had a lot of money taken away from them because
Yeah,
of local
yeah.
government funding issues and that. So in many ways that behaviour is kind of forced by the
It's
lack of access
perpetuated
to
by it.
capital or finance for the charities. It's
100%. And
it's a
it's
real
really,
difficulty.
like, I've applied for funding a couple of times, and some of the hoops that you have to jump through to get through it can be a whole year's worth of work, and then suddenly not to have that at the end is it's crippling. But there is light at the end of the tunnel. There's an amazing alliance fairly locally to me that has formed with lots of the organisations who are supporting the same groups of people. I went to an amazing event with them. It's sort of focused on well-being, and they've joined this alliance so that they can say, right, well, there's this funding. Now, if we all kind of join together and put in for that funding together, then we can make sure that that is absolutely maximised across what we need to do. That's, for me, that's the way to do it. Break down those barriers by being open and honest about what's out there, and, you know, speaking to each other about what you can do with that particular funding pot. So yeah, I would say that they're the two kind of main difficulties. You know, working for the
Communication and funding
and
is a
funding. Yeah.
yeah,
Um, a little bit sort of kind of running underneath that is this difficulty around promoting as well. So a lot of the organisations that I speak to, community volunteering services, etc., so on, they're not experts in social media. And I speak to them and say, I didn't know anything about this. This is incredible. Some are really fantastic about it, some not so much. And one of the things that I'm looking at the moment, which you guys might be interested in, is I'm also on the board of governors for my local school. That kind of curriculum enrichment activity, the social media side of things, we know that some of our young people are great at it. You know, what's the opportunity there? The opportunity is that we've got a need and we've got something that can fulfill that need? Can we create some job descriptions for our local community volunteering services to say, come and work and do some social media activities for us, supported by the school, and then you're creating opportunities for young people they can have on their CVs as well. They build their confidence, and all of that kind of thing. So I'm looking at ways that we can do that, things that are free, but things that provide opportunity for both sides. In
Yeah,
that
we create in the pandemic again. We created for us a big school. It was Annabelle's school, a intern program for some students to come and develop a course, a 1 day course for the lower six or upper six or whatever of the school. So they came in and worked on a voluntary basis to actually build something that they then took back to their school. And another program which was about helping young people become social media influencers. The winners of this London program then were incubated by the YouTube Academy. So
oh,
I had
wow,
some of the top
amazing.
YouTube influencers who took the winners of this. So again, it was all reinforcing to help schools, to help engagement with young people, to help. So there's it's just lots and lots you can do without money. Is probably a
Exactly,
good point to make.
exactly. Yeah,
Yeah.
I mean, I'm tempted to just, I can't help myself but crank that just a little bit further. And I mean, just, just questioning, why should this not involve money? I understand we're trying to get some outcomes, but, this is hugely valuable in society.
yeah,
So, why aren't we rewarding it? And I think, I don't know about you, Jess, but I certainly on LinkedIn, I've seen a lot more people, standing up for what they're delivering and the value that they're delivering. I was really interested this morning to see somebody who is quite influential online talking about, when you price something, you have to remember the experience behind that person as well as the job that they've done and everything that brings to it.
yeah,
You really need to take that into consideration, which I thought was a wonderful thought that you sort of don't think about, that somebody's bringing 24 years worth of experience to this, to whatever you're engaging in,
absolutely. Yeah,
or 10 minutes of experience. It's sort of, that does matter really, in many respects, as well, as what they actually do, as long as the job's a good one, which we will assume it is.
yeah, and hope it is.
Indeed, indeed. Can I ask? I'm interested in. You've been talking about sort of, the obstacles, adoption, access, all that stuff. But Rob and I are recently looking at trust, really, and the levels or lack of levels of trust in society. I just wondered whether you had any thoughts on how that's impacting, people's ability to engage with what you're doing. Um, I feel
Yes,
people, you,
it is massive.
short and sweet.
So there you go. That's
Next
I'm not
question.
happy with any more.
And no,
Um,
so then the question is, do you have any thoughts, ideas as to how we counter that and turn this on its head? I mean, we're on this mission to spread more positive stories around the world, because I feel people can react to and engage. And your approach to sharing everything I'm doing is one of inspiration, for people, because people, it doesn't matter who it is or when it is. It could be in 10 weeks' time that somebody reads something that you've written and thought, that's actually quite interesting. I'm going to try that here. Back to John Stepper, working out loud. It's about
yeah,
getting it out there, because when and how it influences somebody in a positive way doesn't matter, as long as it does that. And if you don't talk and you're not talking, then you're never going to do that. So anyway, sorry, back to
absolutely.
trust.
I think, yeah. So trust. Yeah, we hear negative stories all the time about how, don't answer that email because that person is phishing for your information, or don't answer the phone. And if you're at the receiving end of that, you're already not particularly confident. You won't want to interact with it at all. So there are massive kind of motivational kind of issues that you have to overcome when you think about um, digital exclusion. And we do have large numbers of our older um, residents in Essex that just choose not to interact. And it can be for a lot of different reasons. That's not for me. I don't need it, or perhaps they're frightened of it. Um, so when you kind of think about digital inclusion programs, you've got to kind of consider all of those different things. And a lot of the talk that we have is around hooks. So what are the hooks? What's that point of need that someone presents to you? The reason why they might want to do these types of things. So it might be that they might sort of go into a library and they need to fill out an application form, but it's online, or they might need to be, oh, I need to arrange a late birthday card or something, or I need to attach this to an email. Whatever that point of need is, it might be, oh, my bank's making me go online, which is kind of happening across the country. Um, so those different points of need are the things that you need to kind of consider as the hook, as the reason why you might want to be going online, and then kind of work around that and build the confidence and the trust around those things. So you can work with digital champions. So you've got Barclays who are doing some really great things in that area at the moment. There is a lovely program that I'm kind of working to put together at the moment. I can't mention it just yet. I'm itching to say it, but I can't mention it just yet.
Well, don't mention it and tell us about it.
This is where you get yourself into trouble. So it's definitely about those hooks and that point of need, and are we providing the things that people want and people need? So, for example, I trained up to be a digital champion and then went into my local library, and what I found was that people didn't need me. They were coming into the library to use Ancestry, which is a free tool that you can go and use at libraries. And the 1921 census had just come out. And I was chatting to an older gentleman, and he was putting together his family tree and adding photos. I was so impressed with this. And they're all black and white. And I said to him, did you know there's an app that you can use that's free to turn black and white photos into colour ones? And I showed him some pictures of my Nine and Tide, because I'm part Welsh, when they were younger, sitting together, that were black and white. I said, look, it's really great, and it really brought it to life for me because I see life in colour. And he was all fascinated, and then he was like, can you show me how? So it's that conversation piece, that point of need. Those types of things are really important in building the motivation and building the trust that this cannot be done online necessarily. It has to be done face to face because of the situation that people are in, and might just need that extra bit of coaching and support. So we do have a lot of fantastic online support, which is great. So we've got some amazing things like Learn My Way. But I would always say with those types of things, if you're new to this, you need someone who's going to be standing beside you and helping you out a little bit. So
it can you can have the both of them. So we did you just reminded me of a with police violence reduction units, and they had this buzzword in Thames Valley Police Force, reachable and teachable, for young people who may be getting in trouble, with things so can you reach people because actually they've just been arrested, or you visited a house or whatever. Then you have a conversation, and whether it's a need, as you say, or you're forced to push people from, or to encourage people from that situation into maybe community development in sport or something. So you then get coaches or navigators, they were called, to help with young lads and football teams. But once you have someone there, you've got a point of trust that then you can take into an online program. So I think that if somebody is not online at all, you're not going to build it from nothing. But actually, with community centres and community development, you can pivot that stuff online as soon as you've got some trust in the community. The question is, where is that trust at the moment?
Absolutely.
And is it to the gang, the county lines, and that's the only trust circle? Or actually it's the grandmum and the kids, not the parents, because, maybe that's not so good, but it's kind of a little bit of understanding where it exists in order to then
and not reinventing the wheel and not
else.
trying to create something new. So we say trusted faces, trusted places. And a lot of the sort of work that I do revolves around libraries for that reason, because it's that go-to first contact point of, I present with a need, that's the place that I would go. Or you could have citizens advice, for example, etc., and so on. But generally, a lot of the work that I do is with our amazing libraries in Essex.
So
I'm very
just
conscious of the time. Yeah,
yeah,
sorry.
just half an hour. It's really
Really
flown.
quick.
Let's do a sort of final thoughts and any final comments before wrapping up. I just want to do mine, which is this is a really important part of our program called the Value Exchange, where we're not just highlighting individual stories, but in other areas and other programs that we're developing, the empowerment that storytelling can bring to us, and how absolutely magnetic that they are when you just say, oh, I want to just do this, I want to, and you've just filled the room with so many wonderful stories. I just want to thank you and invite you back in future, and look forward to continuing to develop our trust relationship as we go forward. So Jess, thank you very
Thank
much
you very
from me.
much. Really
um,
appreciate it. I'm glad you picked up on the,
anything
the storytelling piece. It's one of my favourite things, and it's a real skill. And it's something that I taught students at uni as well, how to get your message across in sort of stories. That's what resonates. Again, that's that word.
perfect.
Yeah,
Okay, Annabelle.
yeah, no, I can't remember what the phrase was, but somebody this morning had said, "Homo sapiens are predisposed to stories." I think was the
Absolutely, we're
phrase that I
hardwired.
picked up.
Yeah,
Yeah, hardwired. You saw it too. We all live in the same bubble.
we do. We
We
do.
need to break that bubble. Get outside.
This,
No,
I
but
mean,
thank
this is
you.
what this is for. This will help break
Yeah,
that bubble. So it's good.
yeah, indeed, indeed. No, thank you very much, Jess, for your time.
Thank you. Have a lovely afternoon.
Okay,
Take
thank
care.
you.